Homies, sit down, come join me, come pop a squatty. We gotta talk, we gotta get this stuff out while we feel good and passionate, Because let me tell you, I'm not gonna sit here and lie to you. I've been complaining. It's good to complain a little bit. I tell you guys all the time, get it out, especially while you're feeling it, but just make sure you have a positive afterthought. It's kind of why I love doing these videos. They get me in a good headspace. They get me back on that right track, or make the right track feel even more correct, I want to be as passionate as I possibly can throughout this type of stuff. But, when I sit here and tell you, I'm passionate and stuff, it's absolutely, I put in my best effort today. But when you do 3 12-hour night shifts, which my last one is tonight, and they call you in for a meeting in the middle of the day between 3 shifts, I don't like it. I have gotten 6 hours of sleep, 4 hours of sleep, and 6 hours of sleep in the past 3 days, and that is not good. However, we can make it work. You gotta make sacrifices for the stuff that you choose to do in your daily life, and we're pushing. We are absolutely pushing, and awesome to say, today went as good as I could have wanted. I didn't really go super hard on the snatch accessory. It just really wasn't worth it with my CNS being as tired as it was. I don't want to pull my low back and be out for a week for basically no reason other than I pushed it slightly too hard in the technique. Because as good as the whip may look and feel, that pressure that you have on your body when you catch the weight and your feet plant, especially on a power movement like I did today, it's going to make your low back feel like it's exploding sometimes. It happens. It's fine. Just don't overdo it, So I did from the hips, a slow tempo down to the knee. And the moment I get to my knee, I rip under into a hang power snatch. Felt really, really good. It was good to prime the CNS as much as I could, because sometimes when your CNS and low back is burnt out the most, it's good to do something that correlates more to a strong hold on that position, because it may seem like it's not good because you're further targeting that position, but as long as you don't overdo the weights, it'll actually help stretch it out even more. Because if I were to do a full deep squat whip as hard as I want to snatch type movement today from the ground, that accentuated whippage is going to make my low back and CNS even more exhausted than it already is, and I don't want to whip it and then be like, oh, I feel great, and then the moment I catch it, my back explodes. It's just not worth it. So, kept it to the power position, got up to 205, great technique. I was definitely leaning forward too much on some of the warm-ups, and it wasn't so much that the leaning forward was a bad thing, it was more just it was enough to where I was pulling it slightly too quickly before it got to that highest vertical third pull at my hips. And even if it's by half a frame, that little extra shortage of the pull is going to make you either lean forward or throw it too far back, whatever. You're not going to catch it right where you need to, right over your spine. So at least on the 185 and the 205, destroyed it. Felt really, really good. If I really, really wanted to, I could have pushed 225 today, but it just wasn't worth it. We're doing consistent good work for the core and the technique. This is a technical deload week. I'm not trying to overdo it, So I was very happy with that. It was just enough effort to be like, all right, put in really hard whip right there. Feel good. I'm not hurting. There's no risk of injury. Let's stop, Otherwise, bench day. Love to get on some bench when my CNS is absolutely fried. Not because, I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh, well, bench is the easiest, so that's why we leave it for last. And it's to an extent, yes, but it's also the only lift that I can truly end the first part of my week on before doing a rest day. I do 3 days on, 1 day off at a time. And on that third last day, before rest day, I can end with bench because it's the only lift I can properly do technique-wise while doing consistent weights for the program, regardless of my CNS being exploded, And sure, it's still going to impact my bench, but it's something to where it actually makes my bench work a little bit harder, so that on a normal day, if I were to do bench first or have it on the second day where squat's at, it'd be so easy. I'd be throwing it like it was nothing, but on that third day, I have to put in that extra little bit of effort, I got to put in that. I got to lock in a little bit more than I typically would need to, because it may be easy for me technique wise and just grinding through it wise compared to squats, you know, or especially Olympic lifting. But when you leave it right for last, it'll hit you. It'll hit you. I felt pretty huge today because it's one of those good, like, just more volume focused days where the shoulders and the chesticles are just pumped all the way up. You feel good, you know. I just went up to 285 for 5. You know, doing the same volume every set allows me to get enough volume in to stay conditioned and feel just just burned out enough, you know, get a good pump that I normally don't get because I train for strength. I'm not here to get big. I'm just here to pick up a heavy number. But it went great, and technique was awesome. The new stiff bar edition has been a great addition. I told you guys last time I was going to try it. The Olympic barbell's nice for exploding as hard as I want, but it rolls in my wrist too much to where the bar will try to go back on me toward my head when it gets too heavy. My elbows will flare out way too much. There's too much pressure going on between my shoulder and my chest, and that's where the worst bench injuries can happen. I don't want to tear a pec from the shoulder. That'd be horrific. So I'm very, very happy. This is the first time in a long while that hasn't whipped on me. I could consistently drive without having to overuse my leg drive. And I actually felt like I was doing a genuine upper body workout. You know, I didn't have to utilize my core and my legs as much as I typically do. So very happy for that. But the biggest thing that I want to mention is that there are going to be days like this where you feel so good. And again, with how little energy I have, how little sleep, I'm burnt out. I'm ready to rest. I'm ready to be put to bed, you know? And especially on a day like today where I really pull it back and do the best that I can regardless of that fatigue and that exhaustion, there's going to be people that always come up to you. You know, my spotter today, I love him. He's great. I met him more recently. He's a really chill dude, very supportive. And every single time I have a day like this, without fail, especially on a bench day, people are going to sit there and tell you, that's too light. What are you doing? Put on more weight. What's 20 more pounds? And obviously, this is a positive thing. People want you to grind as hard as you want to. People want you to push the limits. People want to see your PR. But the thing is that everybody around you are only going to see either your biggest lifts or the lifts that you're doing right there in that moment. They're not thinking about your whole program. They're not thinking about the entirety of what you've been doing, you know, and most people are not on a program. You know, most people just show up and just do whatever, which is great. If you feel most passionate that way, whip it, you know? Do whatever the hell you want. But I have to explain to people all the time, I can't put all my eggs in one basket. I've trained that way. That's how my knee exploded. I have chronic issues because of that. It's fun in the short term because you don't have to think. You can just do whatever the hell you want with no risk of consequence until it inevitably happens. And unfortunately, especially the longer you have experience in this sport, you're not going to know if the weight's too heavy until it already is too late, you know? So the only thing you can do, at least in my case, is attempt to predict how your fatigue will look throughout the entirety of the program, you know? And not just this one program currently, but several programs in the future. I was explaining it to him today, and I was like, look, man, this is why I'm not going up, and this is why I'm not doing more reps in that set or whatever, even though I can grind out super hard. I didn't use nearly half my strength or whatever. It's because, first of all, the jumps that I do, I'm already going to 320 next week on bench. That's going to be a big fucking jump. And then 355. And the whole idea is to be prepped for the peak week. It's not a peak month. It's not a peaking program. I have a peak week throughout a progressive overload program with a little bit of fucking around on the Olympic lifts. And so I gotta temper myself some days, you know? And even though, you know, there's always the idea of like, oh, well, you never know how strong you're going to be. You know, you might be able to PR today if you really just give it your best effort. Yeah, of course. But my main focus is not hitting the heaviest weight I can right now. That will come in the long term through my consistency and determination throughout the sport, you know, and just being consistent in general. So I like to switch the focus up on lower weight weeks with more volume to more technical aspects, more focusing certain muscle groups. You know, today I actually really greatly used my shoulders for the first time in a while. I could put a lot more stress on my left shoulder since I hurt my rear rotator cuff a couple months ago. So that's great. You know, the stability's coming back. It's being able to target different things with the same amount of intensity regardless of how that weight moves, you know? It doesn't matter. Do not let the FOMO get to you, man. Do not let the FOMO get to you. This is why I do these videos, man. It's not worth it. People are going to come up and hype you up, and that's great. Accept that raw positivity. Use it. Throw it back. Give it back to them. Double it, whatever. I love that kind of interaction. But do not let it hinder your judgment for what you know is best for you, People want to see you do your best. And that's why they're going to hype you up as hard as I can. And that's a great thing. But carry that throughout the program. Not in the next 5 minutes, Because that's just the short-term want to excel does not supersede the long-term, It's good to focus in the moment and do as hard as you can in that moment. But if you've already written it down, if you've already got the plan set up, if you already have an idea of what you want to do, don't just change it last second because people are hyping you up, Commit to what you think is best for you. And if it doesn't work, then you can grow from it. Because I say this all the time, the best way to grow, just regardless of having as much passion as possible, that's so important. Passion is the biggest thing. But regardless of the passion, despite that, the biggest thing that will help you grow is trial and error. You have to be willing to risk it every now and then, but not go too hard on your body so that you can adapt and learn and grow regardless of failing. Failing, I saw a great acronym for FAIL today. Failing is just your first attempt in learning. I love that. That was a really, really cool thing because that's what it is. It's your first step into figuring out, maybe it needs to be revitalized. It's not that you did anything wrong. It's not that it wasn't what it was supposed to be. You had a purpose and a desire behind it when you went in. You gave it your best effort. But just because it didn't work doesn't mean you failed. It just means that you're taking that initial step into figuring out what your body works best with. Nobody in this world is going to be able to give you their exact program and you will not have the exact same result as them, ever. It could be the best lifter in the world or someone who just started today. No matter what program you run, if you have the most passion for it and you're willing to do trial and error, you will grow at the rate that you're supposed to grow according to your capabilities, potential, and limitations, right? You got to give it that time, that effort in your own sense before you can start willy-nilly throwing shit in there. If you crush a program that you planned out and it didn't push you nearly as hard as you wanted it to, fuck around a little bit, sure. But the way that I see it is if this program goes as smooth as I want it to and it's easy, and I know it won't be, I promise you the peak week's going to get me this month. It's going to be different. I might kill it, but it's going to be tough as hell. And it's the fact of, even if I crush this program, even if I hit every weight easily, good. I want to increase my strength exponentially, It's never going to be linear, but you can at least put in as much consistency and give you the best potential in the long term to grow, Because I'm not going to be able to peak every single program. I can't, My body's not going to be able to grow as fast as my mind wants it to. But I can be tenacious. I can come back. I can do better. So I will. So in a couple programs, if I keep growing consistently, I promise you, my deloads are going to look like my peak weeks. And that's good. That's going to be what makes me learn, and what makes me grow, and what makes me figure out what's best for my body, right? So physically, despite being absolutely exhausted, and everything's really hard right now because of that, I'm excited. I'm telling you, this rest day tomorrow is going to revitalize me. I'm going to sleep for 12 straight hours, I guarantee it. And if I don't, I'm going to force myself to, because I need that stuff. I need that to happen. But it went great. I can't complain at all. I had the consistency I wanted to. You could say that the weights may have been harder than they could have been if I were feeling better, but I say good because the weights felt great today. And if I got more in the tank than I even realized, even better, right? So I'll give it a super solid 8.9, just below the 9. It was honestly a great day, and just having the homies be able to hype you up. There's never too much motivation, You will always be able to pull what little energy you have out of your ass if you just start shooting the shit with people, uplifting each other, and getting each other hyped the hell up in the moment, Mentally, I gave it a 9.25. It was a good day. Met some new people. Got to really share the love today. It was great, And it's so endearing and so self-deserving and, appreciative in my own internal part, to be able to push through these kinds of shifts, these kinds of inconsistencies in the program and the schedule and the typical perfect plan, you know, and I still persevere, you know. That's kind of the point of a deload. It's not meant to be super duper heavy. Even though I sit here and I'm like, oh, I can do several sets of these lighter weights, I should just put more and more and more. No, we're gonna grow. It'll come. Take your time. Let it come to you. Don't chase after it, because it will run from you so fast if you get to it too quickly, you know. Be patient, let it get to you, and enjoy the lightweight while you have it, man. It's not gonna last. It never does. You will plateau. So take your time. You'll get there, I promise. Resting tomorrow, and then I'll be back for my primary clean and jerk day of the week. Thankfully, I will be off work, so I can just go as hard as I want and go later in the day and just have fun and chill out, you know? So I'm excited. It'll be a really good day to feel out the technique, get the good whippage going, and otherwise, I just appreciate you guys hearing me out, you know? Great support lately. It's been really, really cool to see the growth on the channel, and everybody's just wanting to hang out and shoot the shit. So keep showing up if you feel like it. Let me know how the listen live's been going. I love hearing about it, and I will be back day after tomorrow. I love you guys. I'll see you later. Bye.